It is an art, choosing gladiators. They're usually prisoners of war.
I claim this city for the glory of Rome.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to our non-spoiler review of Gladiator II. I'm here along with Sheldon.
What's up, guys?
How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good. So Sheldon and I got to check out Gladiator 2 last night. Again, this is non-spoiler, so don't worry if you haven't seen this. Hopefully you'll want to see this afterwards. So we're just going to tell you sort of our initial thoughts about the film and go into it a little bit. But again, we will not do any kind of spoilers. So for me, overall, I actually had a lot of fun. Now, obviously it's not as good as the original Gladiator with Russell Crowe, but it still was a good film. I think the storyline might be a little lacking. Obviously, the cast of characters, the cast is amazing. Mm-hmm. There was a couple points in it where we talked about this after the movie that I felt like one of the scenes was a little far-fetched, but we won't give it away what that was.
It definitely was far-fetched. Did you happen to have a chance to look that up, by the way?
I didn't look it up.
It's not a thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And you know what? When you watch this movie, you know what we're talking about. I'm sure you will when you see this. Mm-hmm. There was actually a couple of parts too that CGI will let you. This is not too much of a spoiler because it's in the trailers. There's some animals, and I felt some of the CGI of the animals was a bit poor, a little bit off. Yeah. But it didn't take me away from it so much.
No, I agree.
Overall, I had a fun time watching it, and I did like it. What was your sort of initial?
Yeah,
thoughts?
I'm kind of in the same boat, Chris. I felt like it was a good movie. It was a fun movie. It definitely felt a little bit more on the political side of things rather than. I mean, the combat was still there. Don't get me wrong, but I felt like they tried to focus more on the politics of Rome rather than the Colosseum. The first one I felt was a good mix of both. When the Gladiator first came out, I felt like they did a really good job of mixing the two really well. But in this one, they decided to go with that political approach more and bring it more to the house rather than the Colosseum. And I agree about the CGI too. I felt like the CGI it felt like a Marvel CGI, like a little lackluster compared to what we got from the first Gladiator. Because I actually kind of went back a little to the first Gladiator, and their CGI was pretty damn good for that era, for that time period, man. Yeah. Compared to what they did here a little bit. It felt a little too, you could tell that it wasn't, it felt fake. It felt a little fake. It
especially feels that way when they're trying to CGI like a real animal, right? Like something that we know in the real world, like a tiger or a monkey, something like that, where it's different when it's CGI for like aliens or stuff like that. So for sure, there was definitely a couple parts in the movie where I was like, that looks a bit off. But again, you know what? I'll look past it and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely saw that as well.
Yeah. Other than that, I felt the story was pretty decent for the most part. And overall, I enjoyed it. It was a fun movie. Not as good as the first one, like you said. But I would say it was a good second. If they decide to do a third at some point, if they do that, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. So also, in the beginning, it did feel going into it, it's like, how much do I want this to be very similar to the original Gladiator? Do I want it to go off? I felt at the beginning, and again, we're not going to give anything away. I did feel it was very similar to it, but then it kind of took a different path, and there were some twists and turns, and it kind of went off on its own. Mm-hmm. But still, I felt it paid a lot of tribute to the original as well.
I agree. Yeah, they did do a good job of that and connecting those stories together, like, because this was supposed to be a continuation, and sometimes I feel like when they do a continuation, they kind of go in a completely different direction. But with this movie, they kept that storyline going. They kept the principles of what they wanted to do in the first one in the second one. So I was very pleased with that.
Yeah. I thought the guy who played Lucius, his name's Paul Mescal.
Mm.
I'd never seen him in anything. Had you ever seen him in anything
No, this
before?
is I feel like he's a new dude. I don't know where he's from, but he
Yeah.
kind of has like a familiar face.
Yeah.
But this is my first time seeing him in anything.
For sure. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. If anybody in the comments wants to message us and tell us whether you've seen him before, but I thought he did a good job. It was kind of nice to have that new face, like
Hmm.
not somebody recognizable, because obviously the cast of not even supporting characters, but other characters, we knew these actors, right? He was like
Yeah.
the only one that we didn't know. Like, so for example, Denzel. Okay, so we all know Denzel.
Denzel did
He,
Denzel.
Denzel did. He did Denzel, but I got to say one thing. It looked like he was having a lot of fun with this
Yes.
role.
Yeah, I
Um,
think what I feel like he doesn't do a bad movie or a bad script. If
yes,
he likes
yes,
it, he'll go all in on it.
yeah,
And I feel like he doesn't even audition for movie roles anymore. I think they're just kind
probably
of like,
not.
"Hey, we got this movie role for you. Do you want in or out?" And if he sees it, he's like, "Yes." And I feel like he absolutely crushed it with this film,
Yeah,
with this role.
for sure.
Yeah.
And we talked about this on Popcorn Chicken a few weeks ago about he's announced that he's eventually going to retire. So
Mhm.
I think these are the kind of roles that he's picking. Like, you know what? Awesome. I've never kind of done that before. Let me go do that.
Yeah.
And it is true, because it's like you start watching a movie, and if Denzel is in it, it's like, okay, it's just Denzel Washington in a Gladiator movie. But then he kind of, like I said, you could see he's actually having a little bit more fun with it, and he really got
Yep.
into it. And he's
He
great in it.
elevated. Yep.
He did. He
Yeah.
did. Like, I'm trying to imagine this movie without him or somebody else in that role. And I just, I don't think they would have done. I mean, it would have been different for sure. But yeah, I think he did. He was Denzel.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal, he's great. I love him in a lot. Obviously, Last of Us, Mandalorian. He was definitely Pedro Pascal. Like, there was nothing
Yes.
special about him in
Yeah.
this role.
Yeah.
It was nice to see the mom come back. That was the same actress,
Yes.
Connie Nielsen.
I did enjoy that. They brought her back, and they brought that senator from the first
Yes.
one too,
Yes.
Senator Gracchus. I
Mhm.
was quite pleased with that. I didn't know. I was surprised he was still alive, to be honest. I was,
I was wondering if that was the same actor.
yeah, it is the exact same dude, though. Yeah,
Because
100% it
they
was.
did an amazing job of made him look exactly like because it's been 20 years, right? Gladiator came out in 2000,
Yep.
24 years.
Yep.
And that actor, like, they made him look exactly the same, which was great.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I like when they're able to do that. It would have been very unfortunate if he had passed and then they decided, oh yeah, this is the same character, but we had to cast somebody else. At that point, maybe just leave it alone. But I'm glad they were able to bring him back for this.
Yeah. So the twin emperors.
Yes.
Again, these are the emperors that have taken over Rome, and these are young actors. First of all, Joseph Quinn is everywhere nowadays. He was Eddie in Stranger Things. He was
Yep.
just in the last. He was in A Quiet Place. We all know he's going to be in Fantastic Four next year.
Mhm.
So he's really hot right now. So he's great. I love him. He's a great
I
actor.
didn't recognize him being him in
Yeah.
that movie. It threw me off until
Yeah.
like kind of near the end. But
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that is him. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my god, that's crazy.
Now his brother, I'd only seen this actor Fred
Hitchinger?
Hitchinger in the show White Lotus before.
Okay.
I do like them. Their characters, I felt them. They're exactly how I thought they were going to be,
Mhm.
even though the younger brother seemed a little bit over the top at times. But it's kind of
Yes.
what I expected from it. But
Yeah.
I do think they did a great job. So that being said, this cast is great, and even though the story might be, it's not great. The story is okay. There's a little mishits with the CGI here and there. The action is great, which you expect.
Yep.
Very
Very
a lot of-
visceral. It was
Yes.
very
Yes.
damn visceral. And
Yeah.
there's right in the beginning, there was a part where somebody got impaled by a big thing. I was like,
Yes.
damn.
Yeah. They let you know right away what this movie's going to be, which
Yes.
I think the original Gladiator was very. I think this is a little
Had
bit
the
more
same.
little bit more violent, a little bit more bloody than the
You know
first
what?
one.
I'll agree
I
with that.
think, I
I'll
think,
agree.
but
Yeah.
not much, not much.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. The last kind of thing I wanted to touch on was this is Ridley Scott, right? This is
Yes.
Ridley Scott who did the original. Let's face it, he did Alien, he did Blade Runner. He's been around for a while. He has had some misses the last few years. Napoleon was not very well received. House of Gucci, a movie called The Last Duel. He did do The Martian with Matt Damon, which I love.
Yes.
I love
I
that
thought
movie.
that was a great movie too. Yep.
But this is more, maybe he just needed to get back to what he knew and you know what he's good at. So I think bringing him back, and obviously he probably wanted to work with Denzel. Denzel probably wanted to work with him. It's a good partnership, because I don't think they've worked together either. But also the last sort of thing, the original score was done by Hans Zimmer, which is he's iconic, but he didn't do the score for this. Even though I'm sure you'll, again, non-spoiler here, but there's definitely, the score felt very similar to the original film.
Yes.
And I actually think they did bring back pieces of the original. If
I can see that.
I felt at times I was like, this sounds like the original film, which is good. So it's the same thing that we were talking about before, that sort of homage, that sort of tribute, which they did really well. So overall, you know what? I think this was a good film. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely a theater watching experience. Go to the movies to watch this on the big screen, and the sound and everything. So what would you give it out of 10? What's your score?
I give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I think my only gripe was that the pacing felt too fast. Like things just kept happening really quickly, where I felt like it could have used some time to slow things down a little and give us a little bit more to what was going on. And some things I felt also were just revealed a little too soon. I felt like it could have been, it could have elevated it a bit more if we kept certain things closer to the chest and revealed it more near the end, or kind of let the audience put the pieces together. But it felt like it kind of felt like they were kind of feeding to like the modern audience nowadays, where they are being told what is just going to happen a little bit.
I agree with that completely, because I do feel when I look back at the original Gladiator, there was more, his story was a little bit more expanded, or where this one was, Lucius was very rushed into it. So I do agree with that. But again, you're 8.5. I'm going to give it an 8, only because it made me think, like, do I need to see a sequel to Gladiator? I liked it so much, the first one. I mean, the original movie, he won an Oscar for that, Russell Crowe, I think, and it won Best Picture. Right? I don't think this movie's even going to be nominated, and I don't even
think so.
And I, as much as I love Denzel, I can't even think he would get like a supporting actor role. I don't think this is in the running. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think this is really in the running for any of those awards. So,
but I do miss cinema like this. I do miss this kind of style of cinema, man, where we get those kind of like historical fictional pieces and stuff. I miss that kind of movie. This felt to me like when I went to go watch Bullet Train, I was like, we don't need really superhero movies. I think people got to start appreciating cinema for what it was, and not really rely on the superhero stuff anymore. Yeah, for sure. I agree. It again comes down to relatability, stories and characters that we like, and and just did you have a good time? Did you enjoy it? And I did enjoy this film, and I encourage people check it out. If you see it, let us know in the comments what your thoughts were. Did you like it? Did you not like it? But that's about it. Thanks for joining us on this quick little non-spoiler. And we'll see you guys next time. Later.
Take care.